Okay, looks like the recording's working okay. Hey, listen, folks, it's Tuesday afternoon over here in sunny Las Vegas. Right over here, it is the 26th, April 2022. As I mentioned, in a few days, we're going to be heading into the Taurus new moon eclipse. New starts, new beginnings. But it's a very significant one, even though it's partially eclipse. The sun will be in Taurus, the moon will be there in Taurus, it's eclipsed. So with eclipses, things are eclipsed out to make way for things that are eclipsed in. There's no negotiating. And I feel a lot of that is going to happen with the massive shift in the global value system about what is it that people truly value as humanity. What do we really, really value? Is it just having more and more stuff? Is it having wads of paper cash? Is it having gold bars, silver bars? Is it having rich, clean land? Is it having stocks, bonds? Is it having friends and family? What is it? It'll be different for everybody. So just putting that out there. I felt compelled to make just a little short, quickie video because we've got this confluence of energies happening. We've got the Taurus new moon eclipse, which is going to be very, let's say, radical. It's going to shake up a lot of things. A lot of things are going to be shaken up in terms of Taurus type of themes, especially like land, water, air, the stuff of life, the matter, the physical matter of life, the animals. So the way I see it, I'm already seeing it. If you notice the title here, Global Restructuring 2020, I made this over 2.5 years ago. I wrote the book about 6 years ago, and I pinpointed January 2020 as the pivotal date, effectively when the bomb is dropped. The bomb turned out to be a bioweapon, and everybody knows about that story now. It's a bug that went all over the world, and then it's, in my opinion, staged, manufactured, a manufactured bioweapon by certain people at the very top of a certain pinnacle of power. And it's in their vested interest because they have an agenda. I think it's called Agenda 2030. They're very closely aligned with the themes of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and all that crowd. You can just go to the World Economic website. It's right there in plain sight. You can see all the people in the world who are associated with this concept, this whole idea of one world order, a new world order, build back better, globalized, industrialized, ultra extreme, hyper top down, totalitarian communism for the whole world through one entity. And over here, there's some people who are very, I would say, traitors who've committed conspiracy against the United States for their own personal gain and personal profit to align with the folks at the center of the World Economic Forum, Klaus, so that we essentially hold the door open for these folks to take over. So over here, we have a well-established debt farm owned and controlled by the United States Federal Reserve in collusion with the United States federal government. That whole business model has reached its kind of zenith, its peak, and it's starting to implode, as all frauds eventually do. It's just part of nature, cyclical part of nature. You can look at the history of empires, the Roman Empire, the Spanish Empire, the French, the Ottoman Empire, the British Empire. They grow and then they die off and then they are replaced. So right now we're at the end of the first version of the American Empire. It's basically dead and it's dying. It's part of the Pluto cycle. We've all talked about that before many times. Everything that's bad about the United States from the top down will be destroyed and crushed and eliminated along the Pluto agenda. The thing is, the things are so bad over here, you can't just flip a switch and have a vote in Washington and like, oh, we got it fixed. No, we're looking at a 20, 23-year agenda, at least, for these transitions to occur. The same cyclical events that happened starting in 4th of July, 1776, where the actual Constitution that we have in America didn't come into being till about 13 years later. So I'm trying to help people understand that when I do a video like this, I'm looking at it from a very, very broad spectrum, from satellites way high up in outer space, viewing the long-term trajectories. We're going to go for massive revolutionary upheavals in the global financial system. The fiat systems are collapsing and imploding. There's nothing that will stop it. It's just nature taking its course. That's when you have a tiny group of human beings at the very, very top who've managed to perpetrate an amazing fraud for decades. And it's coming unraveled, as all Ponzi schemes do. And it's affecting the whole world because every other central bank and country in the world had to play the same game or they die. And so we're seeing a global unraveling in the global financial system. Taurus, Uranus and Taurus. Excuse me. And then new starts and new beginnings. The old system is going to die and a new system is going to be reborn. The new system to be reborn is what some of these folks over here would like to call CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Same thing over here. Everybody wants to copycat that. Anyone who's at the top of the pinnacle of banks and governments, they want that because that's how they can maintain and hold on to their power. But we, the people, are kind of like, no, this isn't working anymore. Look what's happening across the world. A lot of innocent people's lives are being destroyed and crushed by the decisions and the behavior from a handful of people over here and here and here and here. You know, little hot spots of extremely concentrated power. Anyway, I just had a couple of notes. So the little book I wrote, the little book I wrote is called Wealth, Money, Finance, Global Restructuring, January 2020. So it's more relevant now than ever before. I'm not trying to push to sell the book, but if you want to, you can get it. You can go to terrorelimination.com. I just want to point out that the stuff that I see, the stuff that I wrote, is now coming into reality in a very, very extreme, vivid, unambiguous ways. And the latest theme is the increased violence that was very obvious from, I would say, January this year when Mars entered Capricorn. Mars has already gone through Aquarius and it's now in Pisces. And right now, today, in this very short time frame of about 48, 70, 50, 60 hours or something, the moon is in Pisces. At the same time, the moon, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune are all in Pisces right now, today, in the global 12th house. That's a huge amount of Piscean and Neptunian themes, which of course is beautiful in terms of like universal love and understanding like how we really are all connected. And what counts more than anything is to be loving. Guess what happens with the laws of attraction? Be loving, be loved. Some people don't like it that way. That's actually a nuisance. That's actually an impediment to doing business. A lot of wealth and money and finance is based on fraud, especially when it comes to like the organizations with mainstream media and especially not even the broadcasters, but the platforms that own a lot of this stuff and control it. They make their money from theft. They defraud we the people, and we willingly accept it because most of the time people don't understand that they're being defrauded. Anyway, that's been going on. And it's been very interesting because like these sequence of events just happened that don't seem random to me. So I just felt I had to comment. Okay, we've got the massive Taurus new moon eclipse. We've got this massive Neptune Pisces stellium, which is very harmonious for the global north node, which is the direction where we need to be going, which is massive, let's say, disruption in the status quo to create new value that's based on what is good for we, the people, for humanity. So we have Saturn in Aquarius. I'm going to start linking things. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So when I'm adding the Taurus stuff and the Pisces stuff together, and the themes that are very prominent to me are the condition of our air and our land and our water. We have this amazing place called planet Earth where we all live, but it is heavily, heavily polluted. So the people at the top, people like Bill G and George S and Klaus S and all those folks, they have their kind of Agenda 2030, WEF agenda, which is ultimately to depopulate Earth. I understand why they want to do that. I believe we are grossly overpopulated myself. But it's very, very hard to stop human beings being human beings. Try and legislate reproduction. It's quite tricky. But anyway, so we're at the point where pretty much everybody on Earth is aware that we have huge problems with pollution, overpopulation, and everything that comes with it. In other words, repeat, repeat, repeat. And this place here, beginning with C, and this place here beginning with I, this place over here beginning with A, and this place over here beginning with South A, America. They have a lot of problems that we don't have over here in the United States. We have a lot of problems here, but they have a lot more problems along the themes that I was just talking about. And it's becoming impossible to ignore this stuff. 20, 30, 50 years ago, nobody hardly talked about pollution or the environment or, green agendas. It's because the stench had not got that far. But with this massive Neptune stellium, to me, it feels like, it's like, something fishy is going on here. And it's the stench of rot in every aspect of our society, political, financial, sociological, medical, behavioral, all of it. So you've probably heard about Pluto in retrograde coming up in a few days in Capricorn. So isn't it a surprise, or isn't it not a surprise, that it's retrograding back over the 27-degree mark for the United States birth? So we're going to see in the next 5 months, I think we're going to see a lot of exposure of the real fraud and the depth of fraud that's happening in this country, that has happened and been built up for decades. So the examples are, there's a lot of unraveling happening right now with the left-wing agenda in America, all the people who believe in like social engineering and political correctness and gender fluidity and so on and so forth. I mean, they have great ideas in their theories, but it's like this some kind of intellectual arrogance that I don't understand. I can't comply with it. So you've probably guessed by now that I'm quite conservative by nature, even though I have a lot of radical ideas and feelings about life, okay? So you could say, yes, in theory, I am middle of the road, but if pushed, I know which side I go on. I'm very interested in protecting my money, my privacy, myself. Protection is very important. Cancerian theme over here. Protect your home, protect your family, okay? We're the only population on Earth right here, this blob, which has the legal right to protect ourselves using weapons. and against our enemies. And those enemies, both foreign and domestic. Right now, our worst enemies in this country are right here, okay? They're trying to export the problem over here right now. I personally believe that the conflict hotspot in a place beginning with U is, the letter U, is all staged and it's all part of the global restructuring. In other words, like for example, today in Repstein, American Air Force Base over here in Germany, which is right next to that place beginning with U, 40 military leaders from all over the world convened in a matter of days as an urgent call to meet up to figure out what the heck are we going to do about this insane war going on over here. Because, you know, on a map, it looks just like a tiny blob, but it's affecting the whole of planet Earth, financially, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. Food chain disruptions, fertilizer disruptions, wheat disruptions, financial disruptions in the global currency markets. These are all just things that I wrote about and talked about for years now. And it's all basically collapsing. The infrastructure is collapsing. Pluto at 27 degrees retrograde is going to accelerate the collapse and basically the demolition. So over here today with this meeting right over there, what's really happening is you've got all these global leaders trying to figure out, we can't have a random global demolition. We have to have a controlled demolition. Vladimir over here is fighting Vladimir over here. They're doing it like a bar fight, like a turf war, but it's affecting everyone else. It's a huge, huge, massive wake-up call. Like what are the rest of us going to do? Because riots and wars are just popping up everywhere now because people are just getting sick of it. The financial implosion is already happened. It's already happening. We're already in World War III regarding global finances. Those are the currency markets, the global warfare that occurs in the financial currency markets as they battle each other for supremacy. And it's creating demolition. Millions and millions of people suffering over here in Sri Lanka, millions of people suffering in India, tens of millions of people suffering over here in China, Shanghai and Beijing, mind-boggling stuff. Millions of people here in Africa, okay? Millions of people over here suffering from financial implosions and implosions in the food supply chain. Millions of people over here, millions of people over here, even millions of people over here. You've probably heard about all the spontaneous, like, oh, it just happened that all these food processing plants and supply chain infrastructure systems have suddenly started exploding and bursting into flames. That's not an accident. It's all staged. It's all part of the, let's say, controlled demolition. The people at the top of the pyramid, they have to take it all apart. They operate very much from the Saul Alinsky book, Rules for Radicals, like the 8 Steps to Globalized Communism. It's just a book. It's a textbook. How do you destroy humanity in bulk so that a handful of leaders and owners and thugs and criminals can take over and control it by dictatorship? That's what they're doing. They're actively doing it. Barack and his buddies, Bill and her friends, and his friends, and Hillary and their friends, they've been working on this for decades, and now they got caught. And John Durham is taking them to court. The subpoenas have already been issued. These people are being called out on the world stage, on the federal courts of the United States. So it's becoming a very, very awkward situation. Truth versus fraud. The fraudsters benefit from fraud. It's less like criminals. Their day job is defrauding the American people. In fact, defrauding the global population for their own personal gain. As far as they're concerned, he or she who has the most when he dies wins. That's it. That's all they care about is this lifetime. And they don't care about the consequences. They say they want to make a better planet for the future and their children. They're doing it purely for self-gain. To me, it's obvious, like we're drastically overpopulated, but I can't control that. There are ways that nature does that. Eventually, if you just look at a forest or an ocean or a piece of nature in the wild, if something gets overpopulated, it naturally crumbles and collapses and other things take over and things stabilize. You know, human beings have decided they're going to have this controlled demolition. And their plan is sort of like, it's kind of going off like a damp firework. Instead of killing off like, 2 or 3 billion people in the space of a year and a half, they've only killed off about 6 million people. So they're not sure what to do. They have to keep perpetuating all these bizarre diseases and bugs and then coming up with the cure. At least for themselves, they're making money through the big pharmas and everything. It's all very weird. Something's happening with free speech. I'm trying to connect dots here. When I look at the Neptune cluster, okay, it's like, it's so beautiful in some way because we can understand that really love is the universal force. It's like this healing balm, which can be spread all over the world. A lot of the times though, being loving and being loved, it doesn't necessarily, is not a profitable enterprise. So there are other people who have other ideas about how the world should run. And there's this thing that we have in America called free speech, which has been undermined for several decades now. But oddly enough, I think it's all aligned with this Neptune stuff. Like, you got to reveal it to heal it. The stench is so bad because the shadow side of Neptune is like pollution, morbidity, rotting graves, black mold, disease, insanity, psychological dissolution, madness. And of course, there's a lot of that happening on there. Look at what's happening in China. It's absolutely mind-boggling. It's obscene, but it's happening in real time, okay? And the mainstream media, those people that I mentioned many times before, the ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNNs, and Reuters, and Associated Presses, Washington Post, New York Times, they can't not report. They're doing their best they can to not report, but stuff still leaks out, and then eventually they have to report it. Like, oh man, this is really awkward. And it just got 1,000 times more awkward because there's this place called Twitter, and it was very popular for a while until it wasn't, because it was became very corrupted, and it was a platform of free speech that was used all over the world. Anybody could say what they want so long as you're not deliberately trying to hurt other people. I mean, they do have filters and censorship in that way, but in terms of political and sociological opinions and beliefs, you can say whatever you want. So Twitter was accepted and understood to be like a global speaker's corner, like a global soapbox where anybody could stand up and voice themselves. And that was destroyed and demolished under the tenure of Jack Dorsey, the founder, and a bunch of corrupt board members. And Jack Dorsey stepped away because he realized that it was Twitter was ruined. And then Elon comes in. I'll buy it. No problem. So he pays like 30% over market rate. Some people think he's insane. Why would you pay so much money for just, a digital, technical website? You can't even hold it. It only exists on your smartphone, But he said, I don't really care. I'm not interested in the economics. He can afford to buy it just like that. So he did. And he did it out of principle and as a point, because he wanted to clean it up. Remove all the censorship and the algorithms that work to censor according to this highly disturbed board members group of people who are basically working for the hardcore communist left-wing agenda that's operating in the United States now, and it affects the whole world. So it's just in a matter of like 36, 48 hours, it's changed everything. This is a huge historical moment for free speech. And it isn't just us having conversations on YouTube or people hypothesizing on it on the news or in political websites or universities and colleges. It happened right in our faces, bam, just like that, overnight. Twitter is now a bastion of free speech, and all the algorithms are going to be rewritten to favor free speech and give everybody a chance. Now, that is an extremely powerful representation of Aquarian type themes, Aquarian energy. Think of it this way: communism versus community. They sound very, very similar, but they're very, very, very different. So, as I've said before many times, we're heading into the Pluto and Aquarius age in about 2 years from now, 2024. Isn't that interesting? It coincides with another major election over here. And there's that fellow Donald, and he's still around. Oh my God, that's a real problem for all the lefties and the commies over here. It's a real problem, serious problem. They're all getting outed. They're not just getting outed, they're being brought to justice. They're being brought into federal courtrooms. Oh, I'm just commenting. These are facts. This is truth. You don't have to question me. You don't have to think I'm a nutcase. It's just facts. It's just what's happening. So you add Elon Musk, you add Twitter, and you add Donald, and you start to look at their astrology. It's absolutely mind-boggling what I see is happening. And I was talking to Love Triber the other day. I said, you know what, Love Triber, this Elon guy, he's born as some kind of world icon, okay? Let's face it. He's already changed the world when it comes to conversations about, power and electricity and cool electric cars and going into outer space and digging tunnels and amazing scientific stuff. So you could see all the scientific stuff with his Cancer, mostly the Pluto and in Virgo and Moon in Virgo stuff, highly trined and harmonious with his Cancerian energy. He cares about we the people. And then I kept thinking, you know what? I bet you anything, if I dig around, it'll take me 20 minutes or whatever. I bet you anything that I can prove that Elon Musk has a massive Aquarian streak agenda in his astrology. Because that would explain a lot to me. I could basically say, haha, I told you so. So guess what? Any of you, I dare you, look up the astrology for Elon Musk. The consensus is that he has Mars in Aquarius in the 8th house, conjoined North Node in Aquarius in the 8th house. See? Thank you. Thank you. It's all right. I told you so. Thank you very much. You can stop now. That's all right. I told you so. So Elon is not going away. You might think like, oh, he's only like 50 something, whatever. He's made billions. Why doesn't he just step aside? He can just relax, go on a cruise ship and hang out and get massages and drink umbrella drinks and just be cool. People could come up and touch him and worship him and whatever. But no, he hasn't even started yet. He's just warming up. I think personally, he's going through this grooming phase that's already ordained, not from the World Economic Forum, not by the communist left-wing agendas over here, not by, it's happening from there, Heaven. It's all part of human evolution. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all got discovered in the last, proven in the last 150 years or so. So our job now as humanity is to grow into these new energies, and it's really quite tricky. Excuse me, I just had a little bit of I dropped something on the floor. No matter. So, the Aquarius energy is all about we the people. And we the people is basically like a decentralized sense of power where it's all like, what's good for us? What's good for us? Now, in America, we had something like that about 80 years ago, probably before I was born, or just perhaps in the, let's say, at peak abundance for America, like in maybe the 50s, okay? 1950s, where America had a very powerful, abundant middle class. The bosses would earn this much, middle class would earn this much, and the poor people would have this much. Today, of course, it's a very different story. The bosses now have this much, and the middle class now have this much, and the poor people, they don't even count anymore. And so a lot has changed, and a lot of that is to do with the Federal Reserve banking system working in collusion with the federal government to turn this place into a debt farm. And that business model was exported all over the whole world, and it's working beautifully until it isn't. Now it's all starting to collapse. Anyway, it is collapsing, and something new will be reborn, especially with money. Okay, Taurus new moon, eclipse in a few days. That'll be a calendar moment for the birth of new money as the chaotic, shambolic implosion occurs for the existing systems. Revolutions are happening in money. Revolutions are going to be happening all over the world for the next 24 years as humanity reconfigures itself to unchain itself from the hyper-concentrated, extreme pyramidal structure of power and turning it back into something like this, where power is shared, okay? I don't think anyone has an accurate description of what that's going to look like now, because it's going to take us at least 24 years to live through these rebellious revolutionary times. And we are all here. We're going to live through this. It's mind-boggling. So I think it all lines up perfectly and beautifully with the astrology. It's just, to me, it's mind-boggling. Also, again, when you look at Uranus and Taurus, it's going to be very close to the Taurus new moon eclipse. You've probably noticed that there are, I think I mentioned that earlier, about all these explosions and fires. Think of it. That's part of the demolition. That's the shadow side of what's going on. And the whole idea is to literally destroy humanity as we know it and rebuild it according to Agenda 2030, according to the World Economic Forum, build new world order kind of crowd. You know, just go to the World Economic Forum website, wef.org, and it's all explained to you. I'm not saying anything that's just made up. It's a huge, huge enterprise, and every global leader, every global corporation, every global banking system, every financial system is deeply aligned with the WEF, because that's how they make their money. And everyone else is basically exploited like a cow or a sheep in an industrial farming unit, okay? So there's the debt farm. There's the slave camp. These two are deeply married, and it's affected the whole world, as we all know already. I don't want to explain all of that stuff again. I just wanted to comment on the things that really struck me today, so much that I felt I had to say something. Normally, I just do one show a week now. It's all I handle at the moment on Sunday nights, and I talk about this stuff, and I get all worked up, and then I have to shut up so that we can actually get on into a couple of, tarot readings and delve into the mysteries of astrology. To me, it's just energy. And all I'm doing is describing what I'm observing. And I see an absolutely pure correlation between the energy fields and how they are being expressed on planet Earth. And I'm just commenting as though like I'm a weather reporter or something. Okay, that's really all I really wanted to say. So just it's like everything is exactly as it should be. And why is that so? How is that so? Well, the answer is really simple. It's because it can't be any other way. Things are the way they are. All the chaos, the riots, the murders, the rape, assault, the perversion, all the pedophiles, all the pollution, overfishing of the oceans, all of the pollution of the forests and destruction of nature. That's all perfect. And then the other thing that's perfect is that we're becoming aware of it now. So what are we going to do about it? Because all that energy is happening simultaneously, because we want everything that the Earth has to offer. But if you just do it through the process of rape and pillage, then you end up leaving a trail of devastation. So guess what we have? It's a beautiful place. Planet Earth is just the most amazing phenomenon that I know of. I mean, when I was a little kid, I was part of my local astrophysics society, and I wanted to know everything. I had a telescope and I could see bits of planets and things. And I was very interested in humanity at large. And I still feel the same way. And the tools that I use to keep myself aligned and apparent and just to stay, let's say, tuned in is the astrology and my little tarot. So that's what I do. And I just wanted to share. So I hope you guys get something from this. I'm going to try and coach myself to remind myself to please subscribe. Okay. When you subscribe, you hit a button. Next to that is a bell. Click that bell, and then you will actually get your notifications. But then there's another layer. If you don't have your devices set up to receive the notifications, and it doesn't matter how much I might scream, hey, subscribe, donate, do the PayPal, go to terralumination.com. Nothing's going to happen unless you get the notifications. You'd never know the channel is there. It used to be great until my channel was taken out. And you know, I know other channels that have gone through similar stuff. It's really, really tough to recover. And I've already had my, with the big platforms that do run this stuff, but I love them for what they are. I don't use Twitter, but if I did, I would probably think Twitter is just amazing, even though it has some very, very dark, shadowy features. That's being cleaned up. I believe that over the next few years, places like YouTube and Google and Facebook, Instagram and Twitter will have to clean up. They will have to become neutral and abide with free speech. You can't stop what's happening. The cabal will go down and a new world order will form. And it's very much to do with what is good for humanity, not as what's good for a handful of elites. The Pluto and Capricorn era is going to be over in a few years. And the people at the top of that extreme pyramid of hyperpower, hyper wealth, are going to do everything they can to hold on to that. But it will crumble. It will just erode as part of nature. And something new will emerge. It's all going to be to do with the Aquarius theme. In fact, I'm even suggesting right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Elon Musk becomes even more prominent over the next few decades, even to becoming a president of the United States, because he is a freedom fighter. Okay? The United States was born astrologically with a very important Aquarian aspect. Our founding fathers knew that, but they didn't know it. They didn't know about astrology, I guess. But anyway, I think I've said what I wanted to say. I just wanted to get it on record. Goodbye. Have a super day. I'll see some of you hopefully on Sunday. Take care, everybody. Look after yourselves. Protect your money. Protect your privacy. Protect yourself. Okay.